Hello, hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Skeptics and Seekers Sunday Sermon. Shortish? Supplemental-ish? Yeah, I don't know how short this is going to be, and it's more of a supplemental, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the topic that we did this week. But when I was looking around to see what I wanted to do for my next short, I ran into this video, and I thought to myself, I've done all of my chores early. Why don't I just do a video? Here we go.
Rabbi Yitzhak Adlerstein, great to be with you again.
Great to be back.
Yeah, tell us April 13th or into the 14th, what do you believe happened?
Okay, and this is when Israel was very recently assaulted, a large missile strike, and America and other allies came together and used their missile defense capabilities and took down the missiles. That's what happened. But perhaps the rabbi has a different take.
I believe that we were all witness to nothing short of a miracle of biblical proportions.
Okay, I just love it when religionists, especially biblical religionists, start talking about miracles that happen today that are on par with miracles that happened in the Bible. Because what it allows us to do is say, if that's what they meant by miracles then there were no miracles ever. It just waters it down, because he says we have witnessed a miracle. And we haven't. Of biblical proportion. Well, that may be true, because there weren't no miracles there either. But if those miracles are like this miracle, there were no miracles. So I think that, and this is not a Christian to be sure, this is a Jew, but Christians, Jews, it doesn't matter. It's the same kind of thing. They would be so much better off to just stop talking about miracles. They're hurting their case, and I suspect shrinking their numbers every time they talk about a miracle. Every time they point and say, look over here, you see? Obviously the hand of God, and we look over there, and we see no such thing. And we think, okay, I see. So let's see if we gain some more insight. I think we will.
I think it's going to take a little while for the full effect of it, for the facts to set in.
No, it's not. It's not going to take a while for facts to set it. We know the facts. They've set in. What do you mean it's going to take a little while for it to set in? The facts. They're intellectual statements of what happened in reality. Got it. They've set in.
But it wasn't, hey, the IDF was really successful with the aid of our allies.
Wait a minute. Why wasn't it that? The IDF was really successful with the aid of our allies is exactly what happened. Those are, in fact, the facts. There are no other facts. Those are the facts that we have. Everything else you have, like calling it a miracle, is just conjecture. The facts are the IDF was really successful with the aid of their allies in taking down these missiles. Maybe there's something else?
And Israel survived, even though there was stuff coming in all over the country, literally. 99% of the projectiles coming in, drones and missiles, were shot down. There was minimal property damage and one serious injury.
Okay. All right, let's look at a couple of numbers here. 99% of the drones were shot down. That deserves a round of applause and maybe a sip of your favorite libation. That's really good news. Also, that's really good in math and engineering, because that's what made those missiles. That's what made those, the missile defense. It wasn't God. God did not make the missile defense. We did. From years and years and years of STEM education. Your prayers did not make those missiles. Your faith did not make those missiles. And there's a pretty good chance that anyone who really specialized in your faith, who spent their life really learning your faith, would have been incapable of making those missiles. Right? So if all you had was your faith, you wouldn't have had any missile defense. Let's just be clear about that. So 99% success, that's good. That's very, very good. It's also what we should expect with really good math and engineering. All right. We don't get that all the time. But when we do get it, that's not a miracle. It's just engineering. Okay. And it's really successful and it is worthy of a drink. But the other number that I want to look at is minimal property damage. I mean, that's a metric, right? That's what's really important, isn't it? Minimal property damage. He's crowing about minimal property damage. Cool. That's going to save you a ton of money. And he says, to gloss over, only one serious injury. Now, I read about this in other sources, and I believe this is the serious injury he's talking about. It was a 7-year-old girl. Let me say that again. It wasn't a soldier. It wasn't a 99-year-old man who lived a good life and was ready to die anyway. It was a 7-year-old girl. And so that's part of the good news. It's just one person, seriously, one serious injury. I don't even think he says person. And he says that as a statistic so as not to say one 7-year-old girl was injured. And he wants you to look over here at all of the property that wasn't damaged. I just want to pause for a moment. And really, my dogs are going nuts for some reason. Okay, so we're saying that this is an unprecedented miracle, or at least precedented only in Bible times. This is that kind of miracle. God is showing his mighty hand, okay? However, just to keep you on your toes, he's going to make sure that one 7-year-old girl gets seriously injured. Because he doesn't want you to be too cocky. Right? Am I right? So just to make sure you know, he lets one get through to seriously injure a 7-year-old girl. How is this a miracle, folks? How do you brag about this miracle? I'm really curious. How do you boast about this as a miracle when the one injury that we can point to is a 7-year-old girl? What does this say about your God? My God, he protected everybody in Israel except this one 7-year-old girl. What did he have against her? Really? Did she have some Barbie dolls? What was her crime? That God was like, yeah, I'm going to protect everybody except you. This is how we talk about our miracles.
In a Bedouin village. Now, how do you account for that? You know, when the Jews left Egypt, Passover, which we're on the verge of.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got to say it again. One 7-year-old girl in a Bedouin village. He says, how do you account for that? Well, you account for it by not talking about the fact that it's a 7-year-old girl. Let me ask you, Rabbi, the one person injured in this great miracle is a 7-year-old girl. How do you account for that?
You had the really great Cecil B. DeMille moments, the 10 plagues, the crossing of the Red Sea. But you know, what happened after that? What happened in the aftermath? There were two countries, both had experienced the same thing. They had witnessed the same thing. But the Israelites went on to Sinai to accept the Torah and make a new covenant with God. The Egyptians went right back to where they were before. This is always what happens with miracles. The believer understands that this is the hand of God. And the non-believer finds some way of accounting for it. No, I don't know, we'll figure it out. We'll kick it down the road a couple of centuries. Somebody will explain it. There's no way to make a believer out of miracles. But
Okay. The believer accepts that it's the hand of God. Then miracles are pretty useless. Miracles are useless. If they can only serve to prop up the faith of people who already have the faith, then I don't even know what the point is. And he says right there, yeah, they can't convince non-believers. So why is it that religionists are always trying to use miracles to convince non-believers? And they're like, well, you know, the non-believers, they're always trying to come up with some explanation for it. We don't have to come up with an explanation. We saw the missile defense being deployed. That's the explanation. It's the religionists who have to come up with an explanation beyond what we see happening, beyond what is pretty easily explained naturally. It's the Christian, the religionist, who has to say that there's something happening that they see by faith. You see, this is why it's not convincing to people who don't already believe. And what does it say about people who already believe when they accept things as the hand of God without any evidence besides their desire to believe it? Because that's all they've got. They've got their desire to believe that God did something. Christians, religionists, they are so desperate for a win for their God that they will call any happy happening a miracle. Any happening. It doesn't matter if we saw how we humans did a thing. If it was a good outcome for them, I mean, besides that 7-year-old girl, freaking Barbies, it's a miracle.
those of us who believe in God's hand in history, how could you not see that this was the hand of God?
Yeah, how could you not see it? Well, maybe because all of the other hands pressing buttons to send off missile defense technology got in the way. That's what we saw. We didn't see God's hand pressing one goddamn button.
Protecting his land. In any kind of conflict.
It's not his land. It's not his land, okay? Don't get me started on the fundamentals of why Judaism is atrocious.
Credit to the IDF. But there's always human error. There are always things that get through. You know, the friendly fire casualties in Gaza have been some of the highest in recorded armed conflict. Because
have you considered that maybe you're just bad at it?
fighting in urban territory, 20% they feel. But it's not just restricted to Gaza. When you're out there shooting down those things, it's just so easy for 1, 2, 3 to get through, but not a single one. How do you account for that? And that enemies of Israel joined the fight? Yes, they had their political interests.
Okay, stop right there. Here again, we need to find a win for God. God needs a win. So enemies of Israel joined in the fight, and he just kind of waves off, okay, yeah, they had some really good political reasons for doing it. And never mind that. Don't look at that. Look over here.
It's true The Iranians have been trying to unseat the king of Jordan and install a Shiite presence in their country. But still, to have the active assistance of the United States, Great Britain, Saudi Arabia, now yesterday conceded that yes, they were actively helping, and Jordan, that's a small miracle. The bigger miracle is the degree to which Israel was spared. We were all at 2 o'clock in the morning sitting there waiting for the onslaught. And we went down to the bomb shelters. Hey, what are we doing here? Nothing's happening. And a few minutes later, you all clear, we come out and we watch this fireworks show like no 4th of July that I've ever experienced.
Okay. So he was talking about his enemies. He said, that's a small miracle. What is a small miracle? I'm just curious. How do you define a small miracle? If God performs a miracle, who are you to say, oh, that one's little? That one's really little. I don't understand how we measure small miracle and big miracle. I mean, a miracle is a miracle, right? Right? Well, it's a small miracle because we have really good explanations for why that's just a naturalistic thing, because these people were acting in their own self-interest. But still, it worked out for us. Let's call it a miracle. They're so desperate. They're so desperate to find a win.
Watching those incoming lights take down the missiles that were aimed at us. So this is my passion right now, to Jew, to non-Jew, to anyone who believes in God and believes that Hinei lo yonum v'lo yishon shomei Yisrael, the God of Israel does not slumber or sleep. That this is what we saw. And it doesn't mean the end of the war. It doesn't mean that God isn't somehow still, who knows what he has in store for us. But even in the midst of tragedy, God has a habit of sending these little notes. I know you can't figure out the bigger picture and what's going on, but I just want to reassure you, I haven't gone anyplace. I'm still with you. That's what we lived through.
Okay. We didn't live through that. God didn't send any notes. This is your religious, magical thinking brain, your desperate brain trying to find a win for your God, because there aren't any real ones to point to. Let me ask you this, Rabbi. Just quick question. Nothing complicated. I'm sure you've got the answer right at your lips. If God did this great miracle and left no injuries except for that evil 7-year-old girl, why did God allow the attack from Hamas in the first place, which was so successful from Hamas's point of view that it far exceeded their expectations? Maybe God was helping them too. Maybe that's a miracle. Okay. You know what to do. Skeptics and Seekers. .squarespace.com. Log into your Discuss account and discuss away. Send me an email. skepticsandseekers@gmail.com. All right. Until next time, I'll see you in the comments, and in the meantime, I'm out.